Okay, well, after several attempts to, oh wow, that stop-go motion. Anyway, after several attempts to try to document my genuine 59 Fender Bassman chassis, I just trying it again yet. I suck at videos, and I just wanted to document this thing. It's 100% all original components. It's never been modified, serviced. Everything is original as it left the factory, right down to the wiring that some gal probably did 60 years ago. I don't know if we can see. I don't think we can get in there to get the date codes. But believe it or not, this even has the original filter caps in it, and it works. It works fine. Of course, you know, it's probably going to take some servicing and probably change some caps out. I'm sure that the filter caps need to be changed, but I have a variac right here, and I've slowly brought the amplifier up on the variac. As a matter of fact, what I did was I had jumped I removed all the tubes, and then I had jumpered the rectifier tube with a couple of diodes, and then I just slowly brought it up over a course of 2 days, just a little bit at a time, to make an attempt to reform the capacitors. I don't know if that mojo really works or not. Some people swear by it. Other people say it's just delaying the inevitable. I think that it was a good precautionary thing. It couldn't hurt any. And so now I have the tubes back in it. As I said, every single component inside this chassis is original. They are not the original tubes, though. This is a tongue sole, and that's a current modern Russian tongue sole for the rectifier. However, I do have a pair of RCA black plates in it that are pretty nice, and then these other tubes are, I believe, one's a Mullard, the other one's an RCA. Oh no, maybe they're both Mullards I have in there. They're Baldwin. Preamp tubes. Made for Baldwin organs, but actually I believe those were Mullards. Yeah, that or Amperex. I can't remember what they cross-reference to. This other one is a genuine NOS tongue sole for the AY7 or AY12 AY7. I'm terrible at videos, and I get my tongue all twisted, and it's terrible. Okay, so at any rate, I'm probably going to be selling this amplifier. It's a beautiful amp. It's probably a bit too much for me. It works right now. I've done several demos on it, but gosh, man, my guitar playing sucks so bad, I just decided to re-roll another video and try to do it over again. This is the front of it. A little bit of pitting. I call that, what do you call that? Patina. Yeah, patina. It could use a little bit of cleaning. Let's see if you can see this. There's the original serial number. This thing was built in 1959. It is authentic through and through. Like I said, every single component is as it was, and I wanted to document it before I go and have to actually make replacements with some of the components. You know, like a couple of the caps. The filter caps in the can, they're original. They're gonna have to be changed. And this grid resistor is looking suspect, as is there's a resistor right there that's looking a little suspect too. It's a little noisy. I tap it with a chopstick and it makes some noise. But the thing does come up and plays, and it plays really good, actually. Now, the cabinet that this is in, I don't have the original cabinet. The cabinet is a reissue. The cabinet has a little bit of history to it. I don't know if it really matters, but the cabinet was a second from the Fender factory over in Corona with a reissue line. The second was actually used as a prop or as a display, not display, but as a decoration, I guess would be the more proper term. It was a decoration at the Fender Museum on Main Street in Corona, which is no longer there. They closed down the museum, but in the back of the museum they had a nice little lounge, and in the lounge they used to have little shows. for the Kids at Rock Free program that they had, and they would do charity shows there as well, and they'd have VIP type of small venue guests. You know, they have special guests there that would perform for the charity, and they had a real nice little lounge. Had a little bar right there, and you could kick back on a little couch and watch a show. It was really an intimate, cool, groovy, woovy place, and it was decorated really nice and a lot of Fender motive. And this was one of the decorations. They had this this cabinet hanging on the wall, and the wall inside of this cabinet actually was a Fender Passport. I don't know if you're familiar with the Fender Passport public address system, but the Fender Passport public address system had these molded plastic speakers. They were plastic molded speakers. The thing all would fold up into like this little R2D2 thing, all plastic, molded plastic. It was a god ugly thing. But it's their little PA system that they had, and they were quite portable. What they did is they had taken two of those plastic speakers, and they had put them inside, right in here, inside this cabinet. They put them here and here, and as a matter of fact, that is why there is holes in this back grill cloth, because that's where the speaker wires went. And so they had these speakers hidden inside of there, disguised inside this thing, and it didn't have a baffle board in it. Well, actually, it did have a baffle board in it, but I guess there was no. They cut off the lugs where the speakers were. I guess so. There was no speaker lugs to bolt speakers to. They cut those off flat so they could put those speakers in there, and they had them mounted inside this chassis, or not inside this chassis, but inside this cabinet. And then they had these cabinets hanging on the wall. And in between shows, they do announcements and stuff like that. They would use that passport system and make announcements, have raffle drawings and that sort of thing. And that is where the cabinet came from. The Kids Rock Free program is still going strong in the city of Corona. However, it's no longer at the Fender Museum, because the Fender Museum's obviously not there anymore. They have it at the Corona Civic Center, and so they had I guess a garage sale or a yard sale, so to speak, a parking lot sale in the back of the Corona Civic Center. And lo and behold, right about the same time that I acquired this Bassman chassis from a estate sale, which was a true barn find. This came from Kansas, by the way. It was in Kansas, and it was in somebody's shop, and it was sold at auction from an estate sale for ham radio, of all things. And so, as it being a ham radio auction, nobody really paid any attention to an old audio amplifier, and that's how I came upon it. So at any rate, I'd been sitting in this repair facility on a back shelf in a barn for about 35-40 years. That's where the chassis came from. But back to the deal with the cabinet. About the same time, I came across the sale, the parking lot sale there for the Kids at Rock Free from the Fender Center charity, and they had this cabinet with the two Passport speakers still stuffed in it. So I made an offer for it. I didn't want the Passport speakers, so I let them keep those, and here I got this cabinet. And so this is my cabinet now, and my genuine chassis fits into this cabinet now, real nice and neat, and like it's supposed to. Now, seeing as I didn't have the original cabinet, it kind of seemed a little bit pointless to get original speakers. I could have probably got, well, actually I did source a set of original period correct speakers, but instead I got period correct reissues through Jensen, or from Jensen. These are the made in Italy Ferrari little speakers here. I call them Ferraris, but they're reproduction P10Rs. I believe they're Alnico, and they're reproduction probably especially for this amp. And they're a great little speaker. And the speakers actually have a little bit of colorful history as well. The speakers actually are part of Joe Bonomassa's stash of speakers that he had, his excess or surplus inventory, so to speak. He's changed amplifiers now. He's not using Bassmans anymore, or has use for 10-inch speakers. And so they were being liquidated through a friend of his, a gentleman by the name of Rick, who was a photographer of all things, down in Oceanside. Rick's really, really cool, and he's pretty close with Joe Bonomassa, and so he helps Joe Bonamassa out by liquidating his excess inventory and so forth. Joe Bonamassa is quite the collector and hoarder and so forth, and it's kind of that gas syndrome, gear acquisition syndrome or whatever. He's Nerdsville. and he's Nerdsville's, Rick is Nerdsville's helper there, and so I met Rick through, of all places, Craigslist, when he was selling these speakers, and so I got the speakers. He had original ones, I believe, but they were really out of my price range, especially seeing as I didn't have an original cabinet for it to go with. We decided it was probably much more economical just to use these speakers for the time being. So there it is. The cabinet's got a little bit of story. The speaker's got a little bit of story. And I'm sure if this thing could tell stories, it would tell us a lot of stories too. From what I understand, it was sent in for repair, and then it got lost in shipping and destroyed. I guess the original cabinet was destroyed in shipping, and then it sat in a service center on a shelf for like 20 or 30 years before it got taken home, and ended up in this barn of another ham radio operator guy that worked at the service center in Kansas. So there you go. That's the history with it. And untouched, never serviced, all original components, and it still works. So I would fire it up and play some guitar. I already have, they'll probably have another video posted of it somewhere, and it sounds really good like this. It's going to need some servicing with the caps eventually, because they're just a failure waiting to happen, I'm sure, and I don't want to take out the the transformer, you know, because the original transformers, they're really pretty pricey. I don't know if you can get the number off that. Anyway, I'm making a long ass video. It's 11 minutes. I've been in it 11 minutes and 30 seconds, and here I go on and on and on and on. I might as well have just played. I hate listening to my voice. I hate making videos, but this is the video of the 5F6 Alpha, 5F6A from 1959, the one I have. Get a look at these pots here. Somebody else had a video, and they were saying on this pot here, that the middle pot, the middle tone pot, that they had a resistor that was, they weren't sure if it was factory or not. Well, on my 59, this is all 100% factory. It's not on that one. I'm sure these things have been cataloged and researched and documented a lot of times, but here I'm adding my documentation to it as well. This amp will be for sale. I'm not in a really big hurry to sell it. Man, I just love noodling on it. It sounds so great. But, you know, the right price comes along, and, you know, it's kind of like an investment when I purchased it. You know, it's for investment. My intention really was to flip it, but I am falling in love with it. So I don't know if the right price comes along. I know on Reverb, Reverb, they got all kinds of prices all over the road. They go for about $4,500 is what I've been seeing them actually sell for in... maybe not in this original condition, at least not for the chassis. I might have an original cabinet with them, so, you know, it's give a little, take a little, I don't know. But yeah, I don't think I would take less than $4,000, that's for sure. If you're interested, you know, maybe drop me a line, and we can negotiate a little bit. Maybe you have something to trade. I'm looking maybe for a Les Paul Historic or something, maybe. I don't know. It's a great little amp, and this is the real deal here. Well, pretty much all the real deal. Okay, well, I just talked way too long.